Hello and welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities right across Scotland tonight. An amber warning is now in place for parts of northern Scotland as the first named storm of the season arrives.
I'm in Ullapool as Storm Amy begins to bring disruption across the country.
We'll take a look at the advice around using transport. Also tonight, £10 million for people affected by RAC in Aberdeen. But what will it be spent on?
We just need to understand the detail of this funding and we will get a conclusion to them as soon as possible.
Of course, we have all of the sport for you with Lewis.
Well, Sarah, there's a big derby clash in Edinburgh this weekend. We'll look ahead to that and bring you some of the best moments from a rather blustery Dunhill Links Championship.
Look forward to it. And we're in Wigtown for the Book Festival to see what it brings to the community. Hello, I'm Sarah McMillan. Welcome to the news at 7. Hello there. Much of Scotland is battening down the hatches as the first named storm of the season launches in from the Atlantic with wind gusts of up to 100 miles per hour, accompanied by torrential rain. An amber warning for strong winds came into force across the Highlands and Islands, Argyll and Bute, Orkney and Moray around 2 hours ago and will remain in place until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Elsewhere, a yellow warning is in place for the entire country, with gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour expected in exposed areas. Some rural homes are already without power, and Scotland's transport network is braced for the worst, with cancellations and closures on railways, ferries, roads, bridges and flights. Here's some ferry passengers now who made their journeys just in time.
No, it's just keep an eye on the weather forecast. We knew our ferry was going to be running, and the bus is still running as well, so that's fine. We're quite happy with the way things have turned out. We can get back in time.
I'm just really thankful that we got on the last ferry from Stornoway to here. Actually, we prayed a lot about it because I'm not very good on sea and ships and things.
We've kind of battened down the hatches and we're prepared for the worst but expecting the best, I think.
We don't tend to drive anywhere, we wouldn't go anywhere tomorrow, we wouldn't get in the car or anything, we'd just sort of stay in.
Well, all of this disruption has to be managed by the National Transport Agency. Earlier, I asked Transport Scotland about the task ahead.
We see some quite disruptive weather coming across Scotland, most notably the Highlands and Islands and a wee bit of Argyll, with the amber warning in place for high winds today, but then also tomorrow as well for a more isolated part of the northern area. We do have 2 yellow warnings in place as well for wider parts of Scotland for rain and high winds. So we're going to see some really unsettled weather, stuff that we've not been used to for a while. So it's going to be quite disruptive if you are planning on travelling over the next 24 hours, 36-hour period.
And I can see there's quite a lot going on behind you there. So how do you go about coordinating all of these closures and cancellations, given how widespread this storm could be?
Yeah, so for severe weather we're going to be experiencing, we generally stand up what we call the MART, which is the Multi-Agency Response Team. So they're situated in the Traffic Scotland National Control Centre, where we are in South Queensferry today. And we have the number of agencies that are involved in the responsibility for the maintenance and the management of the trunk roads, but also the emergency services such as police, where we can provide that coordinated picture, common understanding of what's happening impact-wise across Scotland on the roads, and we can direct the most appropriate resources to the developing situation that unfolds over the next period. So we'll be working around the clock to help coordinate the incident response operations and try and mitigate the effects of the forecast severe weather that's coming through.
And when you are anticipating a wide-level disruption like that, the work doesn't necessarily stop when the storm does it? There's the clean-up to consider too.
Just because the amber warning ends, that doesn't mean that the roads are magically open and safe to travel on. There's a period of time where we have to work through a trunk road operating company's resources on the roadside to make sure that the roads are safe to travel on, and they have to deal with those impacts as they occur. and obviously to kind of coordinate that incident response. So it can take a number of hours before we return to a level of normality.
And just very briefly then, Douglas, what is your advice to people who have somewhere to be this weekend?
So my advice is, if you can, please avoid travel. Take advice of the Police Scotland travel advice of high risk of disruption. If you do need to travel and it's absolutely necessary, please check in with the Met Office for your weather impacts for your journey from A to B to understand the impacts. Check in with Traffic Scotland as well for the real-time traffic and travel information. They'll be updating as and when incidents occur, so you'll be able to plan accordingly. Please leave plenty of time for your travel. Make sure that yourself and your vehicle are completely safe and you've got, provisions, you've got a fully charged mobile phone, jacket, etc. And if you don't have to travel, just don't do it. It's as simple as that.
OK, Douglas, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us tonight in the programme. OK, well, let's get the very latest on the storm's progress now. Our reporter Chris McLennan is at the heart of the amber warning in Ullapool Forest, where ferries to and from Stornoway have been cancelled. Chris, we might have an idea, but tell us, how are conditions there?
Yeah, well, Amy, so far in the last few hours, we were warned to expect high winds. They came in. It has died down a little bit just now, but as you mentioned, ferries cancelled. The Loch Seaforth behind me here, it arrived around 5 o'clock. It didn't depart on its return journey over to Lewis there. Ferry services cancelled here tomorrow as well. That's a similar picture on the ferry to Shetland tonight and on other routes on the west coast. Now, local people we spoke to here today, they're kind of accustomed to this sort of weather during these storm events, so not too unfazed, but just following that advice that's been given to kind of urge caution to prepare themselves and not to travel unless it's necessary to do so. So here the weather conditions are beginning to get worse. We're expecting it to get worse throughout the night, and that amber alert will remain in place here. It will follow the new alert from midnight right through until 9 o'clock tomorrow night.
And Chris, tell us, what impact is this having across the rest of the country?
Yeah, we're already starting to see the impact of Storm Amy. There's been reports of power outages on Islay, Tiree and in Campbellton, also in small pockets of the Highlands, Moray and Aberdeenshire. There's also been disruption tonight to flights, that's out of Aberdeen, Inverness, Glasgow and Edinburgh. So as we say, the ferry network is impacted. Now trains began stopping tonight around about 6 o'clock for the northern part of the country. Elsewhere, speed restrictions are likely to be in place. They'll continue right through till tomorrow morning. That's just until time that Network Rail's been able to assess the rail line there to see that there's no debris on tracks. We've also heard of some trees coming down in parts of Argyll and Bute. So already Storm Amy is beginning to make herself felt across the country, and with the worst of the weather still to come, there's likely to be further disruption right through the weekend. OK, Chris, thank you very much for all of those updates. Take care.
Well, thank you for joining us in tonight's News at 7. We have much more for you in the programme, including...
Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Now go, cat, go, but don't you.
And you can find out what this performer is doing at the Wigtown Book Festival.
We are in the grip of Storm Amy. Join me just before the end of the programme to find out about the warnings and the details.
People in the Ballinagask area of Aberdeen whose homes are at risk of demolition because they contain potentially dangerous concrete say they need more clarity over how a new support package will be spent. Yesterday, the Scottish Government announced it agreed a £10 million deal for those in Aberdeen affected by RAAC. Around 500 homes in the area contain the aerated concrete. Ian Lipp represents some of those homeowners.
I mean, it's great that the offer's there. We're also not jumping up and down just yet because we don't know what it actually means. And again, given the history of the council administration, like, how long is it going to take them to act upon it? In an ideal world, they've already acted on it, but given their history.
So what will the money be used for? Our reporter Louise Hosey asked the convener of Aberdeen City Council's Housing Committee, Miranda Radley.
We are still waiting for the detail on that. We have been offered to bid into a pot of £10 million for affordable housing, and we're just waiting for the details of that to come through, and we will proceed following that.
So it's said that this money will come through the Affordable Housing Supply Programme. Does that mean you'll have to build affordable housing?
We are already building affordable housing in the city, so we've got a number of projects ongoing. We've got Clover Hill, Kincorth and Craighill, all sites that are under construction at the moment. So affordable housing is always being built in the city.
But does this mean, in what the Scottish Government's saying here, that you will have to commit to building more affordable housing?
I think we still need to wait for the detail to come through around how this money is going to be distributed. My understanding is it's a pot that we will bid into, but as I say, we're still waiting for that detail.
What does this mean for the private homeowners? Will they see actual money from this to compensate them for the tens of thousands of pounds that some of them say they're losing due to their homes set to be demolished?
We are waiting for further detail for this funding to come through, but as I say, we are committed to ensuring that we get a fair conclusion for everyone that's been affected by RAAC.
So you can't commit to that at the moment, that they will receive what they're asking for, which is financial compensation.
Until we see the limitations of this funding, I can't commit to that, but as I say, we are committed to ensuring that they get a fair conclusion.
What would your message be to the residents of Torry?
They've had a very long, very hard fought campaign. We have appreciated every single one of their representations to us. We understand their issues, we understand their difficulties and the difficult situation that they've been put in. We just need to understand the detail of this funding, and we will get a conclusion to them as soon as possible.
That was the convener of Aberdeen City Council's Housing Committee, Miranda Radley. Well, elsewhere this evening, in the past couple of hours, the Scottish beer maker Brewdog has announced it's cutting a number of jobs in order to secure its long-term future. The brewing company, which is headquartered in Ellon in Aberdeenshire, hasn't said how many jobs will go or from which locations. Staff were told by the Chief Executive, James Taylor, earlier today. Unite the Union has suggested roles could be lost from its Ellon brewery and headquarters and has described it as a deeply worrying sign for the company's future. Now, two boats which were filmed allegedly scallop dredging in a marine protected area are being investigated by the Scottish Government. The footage shows two boats hauling up its gear after being challenged in a stretch of water in the Northwest Highlands. Conservationists say scallop dredging is one of the most damaging fishing methods. The skipper of one of the vessels involved said he believed dredging was allowed in the area at the time. Well, local creel fisherman Ballyphilip filmed the incident and challenged the vessels.
So we went up to the boats, and obviously we wanted to shout them on the VHF radio, so we had to get close enough to read the names of the boats. And then once you got the name of the boat, you can call the individual boat, and then we let the skipper know that the area was close to scallop dredging. I mean, it's very frustrating when we see this. This area has been closed for 10 years, and our community gave up the right to trawl and dredge there 10 years ago with a view for the area to become protected and recover. I think, you know, there's two issues here. One is that the skippers of the boat, it's really their responsibility to know whether an area is closed or not. It's not like they crossed a line that was hard to see. The whole area has been closed for a decade now. And secondly, the government tells us they've got a system that's capable of setting alarms off when one of these scallop dredgers goes into a closed area. So you've got to question how fit for purpose that system is. I mean, did they have the volume turned down, or was somebody asleep at the helm? I don't know, but it's very concerning that the systems that are meant to protect those areas obviously failed on this occasion.
Local fisherman Ballyphilip there. OK, it's that time in the programme. Let's get a roundup of the stories which are making the BBC News app in Scotland today. A man has been jailed for squirting ammonia in a woman's eye. 54-year-old Brian O'Connor was jailed for 8 years after he attacked the woman in Glasgow's Carntyne 2 years ago. Elsewhere, the deaths of 6 men who fell from height at farms across Scotland are to be the focus of a fatal accident inquiry. A preliminary hearing will be held in November at Falkirk Sheriff Court. A bus driver has been taken to hospital after a bus crash into a set of traffic lights in Glasgow city centre. The road was closed while the bus was recovered. And people living in Glasgow will have priority when tickets go on sale for next year's Commonwealth Games. Those wanting tickets will need to pre-register by the 16th of October. Well, for more information on all of these stories, please scan that QR code, which you can see on the screen now. That takes you to the BBC Scotland News app. Now, rubbish on the streets of Glasgow has become a hot issue, and now the GMB trade union, which represents some bin workers, has issued a 20-point plan which it says will revitalise the city centre, focusing on the handling of commercial waste from shops and restaurants and takeaways. Waste from these outlets often builds up in back lanes, and I was invited by the trade union's General Secretary to take a look at the issue.
We've done so much to put pressure on the council to get the city cleaned up, but there is so much more still to do in Glasgow. We want more enforcement officers, and we want the back lanes in Glasgow cleaned up. We want them cleaned up in time for the Commonwealth Games coming, and we want these lanes, which should be a public asset, they're currently a public health hazard. We want enforcement around commercial waste, and we want the place cleaned up.
So whose responsibility are they at the moment?
Well, the reality is this is a public space. It should be down to the council. Of course this is commercial waste, this is coming from businesses around here, but the council needs to take the lead. They need to get enforcement officers, more enforcement officers employed in the city. We need to make sure that the waste is the streets have been properly cleaned, these lanes have been properly cleaned, and as I say, coming into the Commonwealth Games next year, we could have a great public asset here. At the moment the place is rat infested and filthy.
But you have had £6.5 million of investment from Glasgow City Council in the 2025 budget and an additional 200 cleansing workers. So do you think it is realistic to be asking for more support now?
We have had, GMB has successfully campaigned to get that investment after years of cuts in refuse and street cleaning, and for years the council was in denial. The place was a mess, the city's been a mess, and some of our communities are infested with rats, so it's great we've taken a step forward. Welcome the fact the council has listened, but more needs to be done. Look at the state of these lanes. These lanes should be a public asset, part of the public realm, and at the moment they're a public health hazard. More enforcement, let's get the lanes cleaned up, and let's make sure the city has real pride going into the Commonwealth Games next year.
Well, in response to this, Glasgow City Council said, "We are exploring where improvements could be made in terms of the presentation of commercial waste collection times in the city centre. The number of commercial waste enforcement officers in the city has almost doubled recently. In addition to Glasgow City Council, there are a number of waste companies providing waste and recycling services to the businesses of Glasgow." OK, well, still to come, we have an extended weather forecast for you with Judith, and we take a look at the impact of the Wigtown Book Festival on its community. But first, Lewis is here with your sport.
Yes, I am indeed, Sarah. Good evening there. Well, it's nearly 2 years, would you believe, since Hearts last won an Edinburgh derby. But Derek McInnes says he wants his team to thrive on the atmosphere on Saturday as they seek to build on their excellent start to the Premiership season. The Tynecastle side host Hibernian at 5:45 tomorrow, and David Gray's men from Leith are 6th in the league and unbeaten in their last 4 derbies. Kenny Crawford has more.
Ahead of the energy and enthusiasm of the Edinburgh derby come the more mild and mellow media duties.
Afternoon, Dale.
All right.
Good. How are you?
Aye, fine.
Good.
Making Derek McInnes feel fine isn't simply his team being top of the league, but that they're doing it in style.
Sensational! Absolutely sensational! Shankland! Absolutely ruthless!
And next up is his first head-to-head with Hibs as Hearts boss.
I've been at loads of Edinburgh derbies over the years, in the Hearts end, mind. And watching the game as a manager, watching the game just as a spectator, and you enjoy that, you know. And I think everybody enjoys the noise, the match day experience. But for us, in the professional side, it's about enjoying winning, and it's important that we just focus on that.
Hibernian might not hold as lofty a league position as Hearts, but they do have the upper hand in recent meetings.
Jack Iredale! Oh, that's unbelievable! What about that?
Indeed, the Leith club are looking to win their 3rd Edinburgh derby in a row for the first time in 100 years.
You'll be a bit busy. There must be a big game this week, is it? I think the only stat that will matter is when the final whistle goes and then you look at the top corner of the screen or whatever it is, if people are watching the telly or whatever it is, and the results, the only thing that matters. I think I use certain things at times for my own incentive for players, just to recreate history if you can, and to challenge the players, just to motivate them in different ways. But this is the game that everyone should look forward to, as a Hibs player especially, and I think it's the one you always look at as soon as the fixtures come out. When's the first derby? And this player should be really looking forward to it.
That's great. Thanks everyone. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
The pre-match chats are done. The Tynecastle pitch awaits. Kenny Crawford reporting Scotland.
Well, it's been a tough week for Scotland's European representatives with 3 defeats out of 3. They now turn their attention back to the league this weekend. Aberdeen are still looking for their first Premiership win when they take on Dundee at Pittodrie. Rangers are at Falkirk as they try to force their way up the table. And Celtic, who are without a win in 3 games, host Motherwell.
Watched them first game of the season, I think it was. Really committing, trying to play the right way. So. Good to see that, and they've had good success with it as well. So for sure they'll come here on Sunday and they'll try and play, which then gives us an opportunity to be aggressive on the pressure and try and implement our style onto the game. So they've started well, and for us, obviously, we need a win to take us through to international.
It comes down to each individual, right? You know, we all control what we do on the pitch. So we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror, take responsibility for what's not going right. We can't look and point fingers now. You know, each individual has to be better themselves. And yeah, ultimately that's going to help us move.
As simple as we have to go and win. We're at home. We want to make sure that our record starts to improve here because we gave away too many points here already this season, and that's something we have to improve on. But yeah, ultimately Sunday all that matters is going and winning now.
Now, I know you'll be eagerly awaiting more weather chat with Judith very shortly, but I can tell you that it is absolutely miserable out there. Just take a look at Andy Murray's face here. I think it says it all during the Dunhill Links Championship in Fife. More on him in a moment. But what a day for Robert McIntyre. He is tied for the lead after a remarkable second round 66 at Kingsbarns. This birdie on his last hole took the Oban golfer to 12 under par. Meanwhile, Andy Murray, as well as getting drenched, has been showing off his skills on the course. A quite magnificent up and down from the bunker for birdie here. But there was a swift reminder that golf can always bring you back down to earth. There we go. It did exactly that on the very next hole from yet another bunker. Hard lines there, Andy. But for plenty more sport, you can head to the BBC Sports Scotland website. You can follow all the action at Dunhill and, of course, keep up to speed with if there's going to be any postponed matches over the weekend too in the Scottish top flight. It is a big weekend indeed. And there we are, Sarah. Not much golf will be getting played for many amateur golfers over the weekend, I don't think.
I don't think so, not unless they're very brave players. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheers.
Now, the annual Wigtown Book Festival is underway. It's the second biggest in Scotland and it's been going since 1999. So what does it mean for the people who live there and for those visiting? Our arts correspondent Polly McLean went along to find out.
Wigtown has had a book festival since 1999, a year after it was named Scotland's first book town. And both events have been transformational for this community. With shops on every corner and a festival which has quadrupled in size, books have now become this town's business. The festival is now the second largest in the country, and Wigtown's population more than doubles when it's on.
There are plenty of times where there are more people in book festival events than actually live in Wigtown, which is an extraordinary fact. And of course with that, you know, that's bringing money into the shops, it's bringing money into the hotels, it's helping the economy. But you know, we talk about the economy a lot, but I think it's also about what it means in terms of just making the place feel warmer, and it gives people a reason to come here.
Filmmakers Jessica Fox and Ben Please both came here to visit and stayed, and this year they're making a film about the community, which has become their own, which has changed dramatically over the last 3 decades.
And I will say what hasn't changed is the fact that Wigtown's a place, whether the festival is on or not, is a place that people look you in the eye, slow down and say hello, really care about the community, care about things that are happening. I don't know if it's because it's shaped like a circle, so there's like an Arthurian round table situation going on, but I really think Wigtown's a place where the community really does thrive. You feel a part of it. Even if you visited for a week, you're suddenly now feeling like you're included in what's going on, and people tend to return.
Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready now. Go, cat, go, but don't you
This tiny town also caught the eye of Thai poet and performer Molly, who styled herself as Elvis's little sister since she was just 6 years old. So when she found out she'd been shortlisted for the festival's Poetry Prize, she launched a crowdfunding campaign to get here. So Molly, what on earth made you want to come all the way from Thailand to Wigton?
I just feel connected to this place. Yeah, it's there's books and stuff everywhere, and like I said, what matters the most is connection through sharing cultures, be it writing or be it music. This is the place to be.
Let's go, Cat!
Well, the festival is on over the weekend with the Poetry Awards happening this evening. Well, there you have it. Elvis to poetry has got it all. OK, time for the weather forecast now, Judith. The first named storm of the season.
Amy, and it's all going to be happening down in Wigton as well, so they're going to be hit by that storm there. But thank you very much. Already we have seen a gust of 96 miles per hour in Tyree, bang on where we were expecting to see those high gusts. Storm Amy approaching as we see a really vicious area of low pressure, and it's to the southern flank of that low we have a core of really quite brutal wind. It's a small core but a brutal one that will transfer up towards western Scotland, then across northern Scotland. It's a very windy weekend. Inevitably there are already Met Office warnings in force. First of all, a countrywide yellow warning for widespread gales, severe gales as well, and that's lasting right through to the end of play tomorrow. And then we have a higher tier amber warning. Now at the moment there's one in force for western Scotland. You can see there's a gust of 100 miles per hour expected here. That core of really vicious winds making their way across the Isles of Argyll, up and towards Lochaber, Skye and the Northwest Highlands. And then after midnight, as the winds veer into the west-northwest, they'll transfer to northern Scotland, where another warning, amber warning, comes into force, and that's valid from midnight onwards. And it's a prolonged warning, so a prolonged, very windy spell here, lasting through until 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. And let's not forget the rain. There's already a rain warning out. Those totals will continue to mount up with heavy rain driving into western and central Scotland. So what are the impacts? Well, inevitably there will be widespread travel disruption and also expected power outages and damaging winds. We could see trees coming over, debris flying as well. Please do stay safe and do keep tuned to the forecasts for this storm. As far as the actual weather is concerned, it's all about the wind and the rain, driving rain and those high winds across Scotland tonight. The heavier rain transferring south as we head through the overnight period. Temperatures, if you even notice them, around about 10 Celsius. So a very unsettled look to the start of Saturday, the start of the weekend, with widespread gales right across the country, severe gales, and of course those storm force winds across northern Scotland, coupled with driving rain here as well. It'll be really squally in nature, gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour. Further south they'll certainly be showery. Those showers will be blustery as they push through on the strength of wind. They'll be squally in nature, and with the winds coming in from the northwest, it will feel a lot colder tomorrow, but we'll see some sunshine in between those squally showers as they pass by. More of the same tomorrow afternoon. The rain continues in the north, and then we'll start seeing easing of the winds. I say easing, they'll just become less potent, I think, across the country tomorrow night, but still those gales across northern Scotland. Then as we get into Sunday, we can finally take a breath. We lose the yellow warning from the north first thing on Sunday morning. Dry and sunny initially before we see cloud increasing from the west. And it will be a windy day, but we lose the severe gales, but the winds will be very gusty in nature and still coming in from the west or northwest. It will feel colder as well. That's your forecast.
Thanks so much for all that, Judith. So much to keep your eye on across the weekend, isn't there?
Absolutely, and I'll be here to take you through the weather the weekend.
OK, lovely stuff. Thank you for that, Judith. Well, that is all from us here this evening. A reminder that Amy Irons and Stephen Mill will be here with the Saturday show on BBC Radio Scotland tomorrow morning. Bye for now.